Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lads Podcast. We're once again joined by Diego Hope, our resident
Sure.
Alabama expert and fan. Diego, how are you doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
Okay, so today's topic, kind of tangenting off of yesterday's topic and last night's topic. Who's making the playoffs? Who's missing out? Who's making it in? What are the seedings going to be? We are not projecting who's going to win each game necessarily, but we are
Yeah.
projecting teams that we are choosing, and we'll go through those individually.
hmm
So, just starting off here, Diego, who do you got? Who are your 12?
All right. So for number one, I got Ohio State. I think they're the most talented roster in the country. It's kind of hard. I think we have the same top. We don't have the same top four because I have then Alabama, then BYU, then Miami at number four because I think Miami's going to win the ACC championship, and that's what I think is going to propel them over Georgia Tech. Because then at my five, I have Texas A&M, and I have Oregon 8, Ole Miss not.
I think we lost you.
Tulane at 12. Tulane's my group of five school.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. Um, so as you guys can see here, got the graphic up. Um,
hmm
we agreed on the top three. I have
Yeah.
number four. Obviously, with the way the new seeding is, it's going to be straight seeding by the top 12 teams in the country.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Obviously aside from Tulane, who will probably not be in the top 12, but they'll be the group of five bid.
Yeah,
Um,
that's.
I'll just run through on the records. If you won your conference title game, you have an asterisk next to it.
hmm
Um, I have Indiana and Ohio State going undefeated, meeting in the Big Ten title game. I have Indiana winning that. I just think Indiana and Kirk Cincinnati are something different. I think it's just a unique animal over there in Bloomington this year.
Yeah.
And so that's the Big Ten game that I have
Yes.
is Indiana Ohio State. I think that's really hard to see anything else. My other Big Ten team, the only other Big Ten team I could see realistically making it is Oregon
Yeah.
by winning out. I
That's what
think
I have.
if Oregon drops to 10-2, as I'll get to later with teams that I left at, if
hmm
Oregon goes to 10-2, I think there are two to three teams that deserve to be in over them.
Yeah.
Um, go to the SEC here. Alabama
Vanderbilt.
A&M is my two that
Yeah.
are in the title game. I have Alabama winning that. I have Texas A&M losing a game in the season somewhere.
The Who. The Who. 'Cause
I
I
have
remember
A&M. I have A&M losing to Missouri.
a bit of black magic with their backup quarterback. I can see.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
hate that. I don't hate that.
So I still like Missouri. I like that running game. I've
hmm
seen A&M struggle against the running game, especially against Notre Dame, um, who you'll notice isn't on here. Um, Alabama wins in the title game for the
hmm
SEC. Both teams are 11-1. Alabama gets the two seed.
Yeah.
BYU, I have going undefeated. We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
If they can get past Texas Tech and if they can get past Cincinnati, it's easy sailing. Houston
hmm
is the one team in here that you're going to look at and you're going to be, why are they there? And looking at their remaining schedule, they don't have very much more. I think
Yeah.
their hardest game is TCU or Baylor remaining. That's a win out schedule. They're 7-1 currently. I see them reaching the Big 12 title game. And personally, for me, I like that the Big 12 a lot more than some others. And I think that second Big 12 team deserves to be in there, especially if Houston is 11-1 going into that game, or if Texas Tech is 11-1 going into that game. I think that either of those teams deserve to be in there. Going to the
Well,
ACC,
yeah. Well, I was
Georgia.
gonna say
Go ahead.
that with Houston, right? I don't have them, but I have Notre Dame instead because I feel like Notre Dame. I know you don't like talking about like quality losses,
Yes.
but if Notre Dame's only two losses combined by 4 points are to the number 10 team in the country and the number six team in the country, I
Yes.
have them going. And if if Houston goes 11-1, I feel like you can't really notch down a team for going to their conference title game and losing. You can't really, unless you're
Yeah,
like,
which is kind of why I put them in there. Like
yeah, I
if
like
you
that.
go 11-1, I believe you deserve to be. I mean, if you're 11-1 at that point in the season, you
Hmm.
deserve to be top 15 generally. Not a rule, but generally. And if
Yeah,
you're playing in a conference that's as competitive right now as the Big 12 in Houston, Houston's only losses would be to Texas Tech, who would just
yeah.
barely miss out on this because they didn't make the conference title game,
Hmm.
and to um,
BYU
BYU
in the
in
title
the
game.
title game. So I think they would make it. Going to the ACC, one thing you'll notice is I have Georgia Tech going undefeated, beating Georgia,
Oh, that's
and
very tough.
and
That's very
the
tough.
way that the ACC shakes out, assuming that the wins go the way that I have them falling,
Hmm.
Miami would be an at-large bid. The ACC title game would be between Georgia Tech and Virginia.
Ooh, wow.
And if I don't think Virginia would make it. Virginia would fall to I want to say 11-2 or 10-3. And
Really? So,
and I think that a team like Ohio State going into their title game 12-1,
mhm.
Ohio State would be the number one team in the country still. Indiana would probably still be number two. I don't see how you could drop them below Georgia Tech, who plays in the ACC.
No, I can't see that. I can't see
So
that.
I would give Ohio State that bid over them. Georgia Tech would play the American title contender or title winner or
Yeah.
the Mountain West title winner. The way I had my math shaking out, I had San Diego State and I had about three teams that could realistically make the playoffs from the group of five. I had
Yeah.
UNLV, San Diego
UNF.
State, and Tulane. I had Tulane in just because their only loss is to Ole Miss.
Well, I was going to say with UNLV, they're really tricky because you look at their schedule and they've played so many close games. Really,
Yes.
they've played so many close games because I remember I I saw like I saw somebody say that UNLV might be like the group of five. I looked into them and like they're like last chance you. They have so many transfers coming in, but they have a tricky schedule where
They
UNLV
play
that
they play Colorado State, which is a win, Utah State, which is a win, Hawaii, which is a win, and Nevada, which is a win. That would put them in at 11-1 for the conference title game in the Mountain West.
yeah, but tricky. You have many close games. The 3-point game against Miami
Air
of Ohio,
Force,
Air
and
Force 3-point game.
you beat UCLA and
Yeah,
kind of kicked off that whole scandal over there. So
yes.
I think
But I have one also problem. Their latest game against Boise State, they
they
got
got
blown out.
stomped. They got stomped.
But
Definitely.
I don't hate them making a push. I think they have a very win out schedule. It just has to go their way.
And same with San Diego State. San Diego State, if UNLV is the offensive team in the Mountain West, which they are, San Diego
Mhm.
State is the defensive team. San Diego State doesn't have a really hard schedule remaining. Let me just pull it up real quick. Um, they play Hawaii, Boise State at home, San
And
Jose
Wyoming.
State, and New Mexico. And I don't really see any of those as pop out losses. Boise State's going to be a toss up because it's
Yeah,
but it is
Boise
in
State's not a
San
bad
Diego.
team.
It is in San Diego. So moving on,
Yeah, and I
I'm
like how you
now.
say with like the defensive battle of San Diego State, if you would excuse me, like they shut out Cal, and plus didn't they have one of those games where it was like two field goals? They scored only two field goals and they still
At
won.
to NIU.
NIU, yeah,
So they can win the get in and dig games. They can win the go out and score games. I'm
yeah,
liking the way they're developing, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're one of the
mhm,
statistic best defenses in the country. I understand there's a caveat because they're playing that level of competition, but I believe they still lose out, even if they win out to Tulane. Tulane's loss is to Ole Miss. You see, Ole Miss is my number 9 seed.
yeah.
They're an at large for me. Um, but moving on,
Yeah.
My number six, A&M. They're losing. I have them losing in the SEC title game and playing the loser of the Big 12 title game in Houston.
Hmm.
I have Miami sneaking in as kind of that last group of five school for the at large. For me, it
Yeah.
was between them and Notre Dame because
Them and Notre Dame, and I can
I
also see
I
Vanderbilt in there.
I like having a team personally in a conference,
Hmm.
regardless of if it's the ACC. There's a lot of schedule overlap between Notre Dame and Miami, and I just
Yes,
think
sir.
Miami's the better team. They would have the
Hmm.
same record at this point in the season, but both be 10-2. They would both not be in a conference title game. But I like seeing the optics of Miami playing conference games. It builds schedule. It's significantly better than going out and playing NC State every week,
Yeah.
like Notre Dame is doing. And people will point out, oh, they played USC, they played A&M, they played Miami,
Yeah, that is true.
but Miami beat them. So that's why I
Yeah,
put them
Miami
in
beat them.
over.
Yeah.
Oregon,
And
similar story. They miss out on the Big Ten title game, but they win out. They make it for me pretty
mhm.
solidly.
Yeah, pretty solid. So that's the reason why you have Georgia at number 8 and Ole Miss at number 9 because of the head-to-head. No,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Um, and that's really the only deviation where I give less wins a higher seed because I kind of
Hmm.
once I racked out, I kind of went from the outside in. I filled out my first four and then I filled out my 12 to my eight. So
Yeah.
um yeah,
No, but
honestly,
I love the bracket. I love it.
so
I think
just
it's
so
great.
let's go by game here. Let's just kind of give your immediate eyes. Let's start at the top left. Rematch of Ole Miss Georgia. It would be at Georgia again. Who do you
Yes.
have prevailing on that one? Second chance for Trinidad Chambliss and Lane Kiffin.
I just think Trinidad Chambliss, if he plays the way he played at the first half against Georgia, is Ole Miss all day. But you also got to give credit to Kirby Smart's defense, and they're probably going to be healthy by then because they didn't play in the SEC title game. They'll have a week off, so I feel like, yeah, I think that's great. I feel like I still give the nod to Georgia because I think they have the better quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, and they have a lot of great what's it called, weapons.
So would you have you have
Georgia against Indiana,
Georgia
and
against Indiana. Let's see if I can pull that up. We'll type that in real quick. Okay,
all
so
right,
Georgia. Next game, Tulane, Georgia Tech. It would be is it Bobby Dodd?
I
It'd
think
be
so in
in
Atlanta.
Georgia, in Georgia Tech, in Atlanta. Who do you have there? I think that's honestly the most interesting game out of these
I feel
first
so
four.
too. I feel so too. Tulane's a very interesting team. Only loss in this season is to Ole Miss. They won their conference. But you just got to give it to Haynes King, man. He's just so good, and he'll find you ways to win football games. That's why I have him. In our last podcast, we said that I had him above Diego Pavia because I feel like he's really what Diego Pavia is trying to be like, but without all the media
Okay.
stuff. So
Yeah.
I have to give it to Georgia Tech, and they go to Ohio State.
Yeah. I don't hate that honestly. I would have actually Tulane pulling that game out.
Oh
Um
yeah, I mean, like, Tulane's a
I
very good team.
Tulane's offense has sputtered at points in this season, but they've played some decent competition. They've played three three power conference programs in Duke, Ole Miss, and Northwestern.
Yeah,
Northwestern is not the Northwestern of old this year. They're a decent team. They're a decent program. Same with Duke. And obviously, Ole Miss is Ole Miss. They're one of the best offensive programs, if not the best offensive program in the country.
yeah, and that was a
Tulane,
blowout. That was a blowout.
Tulane is very good against the quarterback run,
Hmm.
and I just don't. I see them putting Haynes King in a position where they need to throw, and against Northwestern, who has a decent quarterback, who transferred from SMU, who went to the playoffs last year.
Oh yes, I do remember that guy. Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, he was like
He
a four
he
star.
threw he threw 4 interceptions against Tulane. So if Tulane could put Georgia Tech into a hypothetical passing scenario, passing game, I would put
Hmm.
Tulane through. So I'll go with, but I do like your pick. If it's at Georgia Tech, I'll give you Georgia Tech. So we'll
Yeah, I
go to
like
the
that.
top right now. Miami,
Oh,
Oregon.
Miami, Oregon. That's a tough.
This is a spectacle. Miami would go literally the furthest they could go possible across the
Yes,
country to Eugene. Who do you have here? It would be one of the best games of the week.
it's all dependent on the man of the hour, Carson Beck. I think Dante Moore is probably one of the most consistent quarterbacks in college football. Even during their loss against Indiana, he still didn't play bad. But I mean, like if Ruben Bain shows up to play, like he didn't against Louisville, but if he shows up to play, he can shake up the run game and the pass game. But I feel like the change in temperature, because you also got to think they're coming from, I live in Miami right now. So they're coming from like 80-degree weather, which it would be in December, all the
Then
way
it'd
up to
be up to
like in the negative.
30s, 20s, 20s,
Yes,
30s. It would not be
yes.
fun.
I think I have to give it to Oregon
I
because,
agree. I agree. I think while Indiana is a different animal, Indiana went into Oregon and proved this is kind of arguing for more of a Miami scenario, but they kind of went into Austin Stadium and proved that that stadium is not necessarily the most ruckus environment you can play in.
yes, that
But
is
I
true.
think if you get to a scenario in the playoffs where it's at Oregon, you're
Hmm.
playing Miami, who at this point would be kind of, they would have been on a winning streak from the Louisville game. Maybe Carson Beck finds some confidence again. Maybe they can instill kind of another Indiana loss on
Yeah.
Oregon. Countering that again and arguing for Oregon, it's the weather. It's Dante
Hmm.
Moore. I love that coaching staff, and
Yes.
there are some dogs on the defensive side of the ball. I would give the game to Oregon, and
Hmm.
this may surprise some people. I would give it to them handily. I think that's a multiple
I can see
score
that.
game
I can see because I don't think I've ever seen Carson Beck even play in cold weather. And I just want to see how that would be because I want to see how he handles it. Because this is also probably going to be Carson Beck's last game in college. And let's see how he projects to the pros. I mean,
for
like,
sure, for sure. And the final game, kind of an unintentional Texas game,
yeah,
Houston at A&M.
at College Station.
I
At College.
think I immediate thought here, too big of a mountain to climb for Houston.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I
I think
Houston
that,
Houston played Texas Tech at home this year and kind of got dogged on
yeah,
big time. I don't think it's an important thing to recognize the most deserving 12 are not always the best 12. We'll get to
yes,
that definitely next in the next segment when we kind of go to who's missing out because there are some
yeah.
definite good teams, good programs that miss out
Hmm.
that are probably better than Houston.
Yeah, very Houston.
That are
But they don't have a
probably
better
better.
resume, I think.
Exactly. And I think if you get to that point in the season, who knows? Houston has a really good defense. There is a world where I could see, especially if hopefully this doesn't happen, but what if a Marcel Reed gets injured? What if that receiving core goes down a receiver or two
Yes.
for Texas A&M? That stadium again, kind of with the Oregon game, does decide this game for me. I would
Hmm.
have Texas A&M winning. They just played Alabama, who would be the hottest team in the country at that point, aside from Indiana.
Yeah, 12 straight.
I find it hard to pick Houston, even though I love the Big 12. I love Houston. I love Willie Fritz and that team. I do like their quarterback. Connor Wegman
Hmm.
has played a couple decent games, but he's proven when he goes on the road, he went on the road to Oregon State. That game was an overtime win for Houston, and Oregon State is not necessarily the best team. So I think if you go on the road to one of the best environments in college football in December in a playoff game. I don't think you would have a better environment in any of the
This is
first
also
four
this
playing games.
this is also a homecoming game for Connor Wegman because he transferred to Houston.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would have to give it to Texas A&M as well,
So
unless
I
for
like
all
that.
things considered that Marcel Reed gets hurt. I think that's the only
And
way.
I feel like this could fall into one of those blowout games from the last season's play-in games where it wasn't really close in a lot of these
Mhm.
games. I'm trying to
Like
remember the
at
exact
SMU
game.
Penn State.
SMU Penn State exactly was is kind of what I'm thinking of. SMU last year was not the best team. I would
Hmm.
argue that BYU was better,
Yeah,
but SMU deserved to be there.
yeah, they were 11-1,
They
and
were
they won
11-1. They made the ACC title game, and I find it hard to put a team like BYU last year over them. It's kind
Mhm.
of the reason why I put Miami in over a lot of teams. That's why I put Houston in over a couple teams. So now we get to the quarterfinals. Georgia at Indiana, or no, Georgia, Indiana. Who do you have there? That's an interesting game.
It's a tough game, and this will determine how because Kirk Cignetti has coached in the SEC before because I remember reading something the other day that says he brought Mark Ingram to Alabama.
Yes.
Granted. So I think that this is really to show how good he was as a coach. He was great at JMU, but it's really hard to go against a Georgia team that's probably gonna that has played some of the best competition in college football, some of the hardest schedules. But I still got to give the Indiana man.
So how much?
Fernando Mendoza is crazy.
So how much would and you just picked Indiana, but how much would that rest play into it? We saw the rest
That is true.
actually had about a 50-50 split on did the rest help you last year in the
Hmm.
playoffs? And
Boy, it didn't help Boise State and didn't help Oregon.
it
But
did
I
not
feel
help
like
Oregon or Boise State at all.
But I feel like Boise State last year was just such a phenomenon with just having one amazing player in Ashton Gency.
And
And then we can get into this in another
I feel
episode
like
about like
that
Heisman
game I
stuff.
feel like that game specifically for Boise State last year was also a product of the format, giving one of those buys to a group of five school. In hindsight's always 2020. That game, giving that buy to Boise State kind of completely disproves this whole it's the most deserving teams because the most
Yes.
deserving team to get a buy last year probably should have been a Penn State.
Hmm.
This
Penn State was very good last year.
and I struggle to find other teams off the top of my head that deserve to be in there more than Boise State because I do love the number five, but I feel like that might have been the product of that result last year. But I do
Hmm.
agree. I think Indiana at this point would be just unstoppable force meets immovable object, and I think Indiana would be would be just unstoppable. I
Yes.
think Kirk
But I,
Cignetti
I feel
is
like I feel like it wouldn't I feel like it would be a close game though. You still gotta give it to Indiana, but
yes
it's still I don't think it would be like and Indiana goes off to
semifinal. And
the semifinal.
who would they meet? Georgia Tech, Ohio State.
Big Ten.
This is another game. I'm just gonna throw this out there. I think I'd pick Georgia Tech.
Oh, I feel like when you said it's a toss up between Tulane and Georgia Tech, I feel like I can understand that. But I feel like Ohio State just has too good of a defense. And you see the way they played against, like, a running quarterback in of which, like, Arch Manning is still a dual threat quarterback, and they contained them. And, they have the best safety in college football in Caleb Downs. They have the best linebacker in college football with Arvell Reese. I feel like their defense is going to be too much for Georgia Tech. But I
And
would
I'm
see it.
okay.
I could
I
see
am
it ups.
okay.
I could see it upset.
I and I'm kind of interjecting an upset into this game because Georgia Tech was one of my darlings for the year, and I
Yeah,
love seeing what Haynes King is doing. And I feel like Ohio State could get nipped by the bye bug. They could get nipped by the rest in a
like
way.
what Oregon was last year.
And I'm not exactly sure where these games, where these quarterfinals and semifinals will be played. But if this game does fall towards a southeastern trajectory, an Atlanta, a New Orleans, a Miami, if that
Yeah.
game falls down there, I mean, obviously Ohio State fans travel well, but I think you could see a pretty even split, a pretty neutral field. And I feel like at a neutral field, Haynes King and some of those Georgia Tech run schemes, that offense is insane. Some of the
Hmm.
play calls are just outrageous. I
Yeah.
feel like you could start to see Haynes King and some of those offensive side linemen maybe impose their will a little bit, kind
Mhm.
of play the underdog. I'm okay with moving on whoever you want to move on. Who do you have as your final pick in this game? I'm assuming
I
it's
feel
Ohio
like
State.
I feel like it's just too poetic for Georgia Tech to make it that far and be the blue blood of college football. So I will go to OSU, but I will, if we can do this again after conference championships
Yes.
and after the Georgia Tech Georgia game to see how Georgia Tech does fare up against a good team, because you have them beating Georgia, and I can see that definitely. But what happens if Georgia Tech drops that game? It's really going to determine a lot of things with
Yes.
how we see things.
Yeah. And I think honestly, if Georgia Tech does drop that game, that's an interesting scenario because it wouldn't drop them from their ACC title game.
Oh no, it wouldn't.
And and I think what that would actually do is hurt the ACC because I think that
I
would
feel like
allow.
Miami would be out if
I think that
that
would
would
push.
happen.
I think that would push Miami out, and it would let a
Notre Dame
Texas
come in.
Tech. It would let a Notre Dame. It would let one of these programs in that.
I was seeing something because you also have Vanderbilt out of the year. Because I was talking to my dad, who deserves it more? A team that goes to the conference finals and loses, yes, but they still have 11 wins, or or 11 win team in the regular season that couldn't go because they lost one to the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah,
And I
and
said, like,
I do have. I touched on this yesterday. I do have Notre Dame or Vanderbilt losing 2 games. I have them losing
two
to.
games.
I have them losing to Tennessee on the road, and I have them losing to Auburn on the road as well.
I can see
So
that. I can
I don't
most
have
definitely
them
see that.
mathematically in here, but
Hmm.
we could touch on my records after we go through the final six real quick, and then we could kind of
Sure.
pinpoint out some that maybe aren't in this final part. But
Mm.
next game, Alabama Oregon. I love this game almost more than Georgia Tech Tulane. It seems like a fun game. Kalen
Hmm.
DeBoer kind of goes back to one of his old rivals in Oregon,
That he's dominated as well with
and
Washington.
and I I love Kalen DeBoer. He did some great things at Fresno State, and
Hmm.
I just think that at this point in the season, similar to Indiana, it's unstoppable force.
They're
There's
just
too
too hot. I
much.
feel like that as
I
well.
think this point in the season, you might have a Heisman Trophy sitting in your backfield,
With Ty Simpson, yes.
and
I can see that. I can most definitely see that.
if you, I think we're in consensus here that Alabama moves on.
Yeah, but I don't think that this is gonna I think this would be a close game because I gotta give credit to where credit's due. Dan Lannon is probably one of, if not the best coach in college football right now. He's
I
an
do like that.
amazing
I do like that.
recruiter.
And I think a lot of this, obviously, if we get to this point of the season, it's hard to draw back on last year, but I think a lot of this pick for me does kind of draw back to last season's result, where
Yeah.
they did underperform in the playoff and they
Mhm.
did get blown out. The score line was much closer than that game showed.
Mhm.
So I have Alabama. We got to kind of move quickly here just because we don't have much time left, only about 10 minutes. But final quarterfinal game here. BYU plays host to Texas A&M. This
It's
game,
BYU all day.
this game, you agree?
Yeah, I think it's BYU because I feel like they're one of 2 teams or 3 teams that are undefeated at the start this. And I feel like Texas A&M has trouble with the run game. Against Arkansas, against Notre Dame. And I feel like that's going to be too much for a healthy BYU team
And
here,
and
hopefully.
and this might and honestly, Texas A&M might play the two best defenses in the country back to back in Houston and
Yeah.
BYU. Houston, that's a very strong tout there. I may not go as far to say that later on in the season, but these are two of the best defenses in the Big 12 for sure. BYU,
Mhm.
I would argue, has one of the best secondaries. I would argue they have the best linebacking core in the country with Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker. You have Ciale Acera coming off the bench. Their defensive line is big. They imposed their will. They dominated Utah, and then it mirrors itself on the offensive side of the ball. You have good receiving core, a solid receiving core that's experienced. You have a running
Mhm.
back room that maybe not as deep, but they run physically. And when a physical run comes up against Texas A&M, they've struggled. And it may be that BYU moves on simply because they go out and run for 250. Maybe not put up
Yeah,
100
that is true.
points, but they may keep Texas. This could be a game where it goes 17-0. But it could also, in the same breath, be a
Mhm.
game where it's a Notre Dame scoreline for Texas A&M, where it's 42-40, and
Yeah.
it's a field goal in it at the last minute or overtime. I like the BYU pick as well. And do you wet dream for you and me playing Bama BYU in the
Yeah, that is
semifinal of the
true.
playoffs? But
Yes. I mean, like one,
so
two,
we
three,
go,
four.
so we
These are
go,
clear cut, in my opinion.
so we go full chalk to end the season here. Give me a score line for these two
Indiana Ohio State.
games. If I can edit it, I'm not sure if I'll be able to edit it. Maybe not.
Scoreline for these two games. I feel like
This would be in a rematch of the Big 10 title game for Indiana Ohio State. Just rattle me off a score. Maybe the
I think Indy.
second chance Ohio State.
Yeah, but I just think that Ohio State's going to get outcoached here because I feel like Ryan Day's he's like I don't think he's as good of his coach as people say he is.
I agree. I like that.
But I can see it being 28 to 17. I feel like Indiana has just such a great chance and they throttle on to their first national championship.
So obviously, we're probably going to differ opinions here.
Yeah.
Um, I here's the thing. There's been for years when BYU's having a good season, BYU will see give us Bama signs in the
Yes.
stadium here, and this
It's
would
finally going to
be
happen.
this would be one of the, if not the biggest game in BYU history, maybe bigger than the 1990 Miami game.
Yeah, I can see that. This is a make it break it thing.
Give me just a quick as possible synopsis of this game. What happens? Where do the plays fall? Where does the ball bounce? What's the score line?
Well, I see with what Alabama does, and they have such, I think, a mismatch with their receivers to BYU secondary. They give credit where credit's due. BYU secondary is really good. But I feel like it's going to be hard for you to, at this point, Alabama might have two 1,000-yard receivers in both Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. And I feel like with the Heisman winner, I feel like you and me can differ here. This game can go a million different ways.
So you're thinking higher score here.
I feel like it might be a shootout.
So
And I feel like if
I agree. And that was a point that I was kind of going to make is Bama, as good as they are on offense, Ty Simpson under pressure is not necessarily the smoothest quarterback. And
yes, that is true.
maybe this is attributed to the drops by some of those receivers,
That
but
is true.
under pressure, you're playing the best linebacking core in the country.
Hmm.
And I'll just tell you, Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker, those are two first round draft picks
At linebacker, yeah.
at linebacker. And they're both on the field at the same time. They're going to be coming. BYU runs crazy stunts, runs some crazy schemes on the defensive side. Jay Hill has orchestrated that defense to be one of the most explosive in the country. Falate Satuala in the secondary. there's some incredible names. Shmev Alexander. There's some good names there.
on
If
the
I had
defensive
to,
side for
if I
BYU.
had to give you a score here, I would.
I feel like it'd be
I
an
think it'd
Alabama
be.
Georgia type of game, like a 24-21.
I think it would be
But
higher than that. I think give me 38
38.
31 BYU.
Oh, I don't know about that one, man. Because have you seen Alabama's defense? I mean, ever since that Florida State game where they're giving so much, they're holding great offenses to under the points. Like you saw with Tennessee, they only allowed 20. I feel like I think it's going to be a close game, but I feel like I know you and me, we're two different fans, and we're going to have different. You want to win this game, I want to win this game. I feel like Alabama does win this game. I feel it's going to be like a 28-24, like Georgia was. BYU scores a garbage time touchdown.
And I
But
do and I don't hate that. And
but
let's
I don't
just
hate your
go
score either.
let's just go quickly. Just give me don't even score, just give me I Indiana. I have Indiana.
You have Indiana beating both those teams?
Yeah.
It all depends. I just gotta say, I feel like if Bama goes off and beats BYU, no one touches them. I'm a very biased fan, but I'm not biased in where you know, Indiana has a great team. And when I had them in my playoffs, I had them losing to Ohio State again in the semifinals. But I feel like, yeah, give me Alabama though.
And I don't
I
hate
just
that.
see
And
Alabama winning it.
so and I'll just quickly touch on these. If you want to give a quick like blurb,
Oh, I like this. I like this.
Virginia would miss out by losing the ACC title game. Notre
Hmm.
Dame, I, I get it. They lost to two good teams. They have two losses, and I can't let them in over Houston, who made a conference title game and went 11
Yeah,
and 1. Regardless of competition, I still think that team deserves to be in. Maybe the committee doesn't make that decision, but
yeah,
Navy would lose in the American title. UNLV would win in the Mountain West for me, but I
yeah,
would still give the nod to Tulane. Texas
yeah,
Tech, they would be 10-2. They would miss the title game. Same with Utah.
yeah.
Just you can't give them anything more because they haven't played much more. So final thoughts. Anything as far as the playoffs. Your final comment.
No, I don't feel anything wrong with it. I mean, like as me, us being fans of football in general, I can totally give respect to Indiana, and I can totally see them winning the whole thing. It's just that I think that you know the saying where it's like I don't know how to word this. It's like you expect too much just not to produce. I feel like
Yeah.
Indiana has so much pressure on their back, and this is the first time they've ever had it
And I think
with
that's fair. And we'll just wrap up really quick because we don't have much time left. Diego, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll keep going later on. We'll probably redo this around the conference championship time.
Hmm.
We'll do
I'd
a
love to.
conference championships prediction, but thanks for coming on
Thank
and
you.
have a good day, bud.
Yeah, you too.